Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Let's Chat Live, a show where we interview new and upcoming podcasts to find out more about their show and why you should listen. I'm your host, Robert.
And Seaball.
And yeah.
Not used to the name.
Hearing an echo, which is weird.
Uh-oh. We'll keep going as we go. I'll mute myself later.
Yeah.
See if I can fix it.
I got it. There it was. And here's Seaball with us. And today we've got the opportunity to sit down with Alex from the Briarwood Academy. Briarwood Academy is a Monster of the Week podcast set just outside the sleepy town of Twin Anchors, Connecticut at the Briarwood Reformatory Campus. So here is Alex.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, man, how you doing?
Good. I'm doing great. Thanks. How are you guys doing?
Doing all right now that I fixed my really dumb mistake and not hearing myself in my ear, which was kind of
welcome
weird.
To the power of live.
I was like, whoa. But yeah, sweet. Welcome.
Thank you.
So I guess just to start off with, you want to tell us a little bit about your show?
Sure. Yeah, we are an actual play podcast, which is a genre of podcast that records live playthroughs of tabletop games. Typically games like Dungeons and Dragons, Masks, Vampire the Masquerade. Those are popular ones that are pretty common. And we decided to go with Monster of the Week because it has a strong narrative and it allows for a lot of free form storytelling from all cast members, not just the gamekeeper, the game master. So
very cool.
Yeah.
So I guess getting straight into it with your cast, how long have you all known each other and how did you meet?
Okay, so let's see here. I was the one who got the idea. I got everyone together. I kind of organized the whole thing. And let's see. Well, Ethan and I go back to, we met through some mutual friends, I guess. And we worked together a little bit. And then Cole and I worked together a bit. Cole is dating April, so that's where they know each other. So she kind of got roped in, and she's having a lot of fun with it. And then Dylan, at the beginning of the show, he's one of our cast members who did have to leave. Unfortunately, just things are going. He's got a lot going on in his life right now, so he had to take some time off. And me and him, he used to be my boss. Almost 10 years ago now, 8 years ago, something like that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's kind of how we met together. And then our newest cast member, Makoto Thomason, he is actually a member of the podcasting community. And I reached out to some mutual friends that I had met through podcasting, and he was really interested in our show. He was a fan. And that's how we kind of got him on the show. So that's all of us. And so that's how we know each other.
Awesome.
Go ahead, Paul.
No, I like the idea of this being like this little community going. Like it's more than just, for the most part, some like I've heard other shows of kind of the ilk, but they were you could tell they're not nearly as connected as you guys are. Like you guys kind of flow and gel really well. I've heard some that are just, it's almost like listening to a first date over and over and over again.
Oh man. Yeah, I can see that being
awkward
super
stops.
Awkward, yeah.
It's just, they don't catch each other's flow at all, especially like if you're talking to someone on the phone for the first time, stepping over each other and you guys got it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some of that, the stepping over each other that I typically cut out in the editing process.
Sure.
But it's almost it's almost like it doesn't take place in the moments that are important or that progress story or that drive comedy or any of those moments. It's just kind of like a moment that everyone kind of fumbled. And so it's interesting how that ends up happening. I never have to cut out, like redo a part or retake. Okay, can we actually do that again, guys? Because we were all talking at once. That never happens.
That's awesome. I was listening to your show a little bit earlier today, and there was actually a question in the chat that just popped up that I really that struck me just from a theater background. I was curious about if anybody, if you or anybody in the cast had any training or has a background in performance.
Right. So both me and Ethan have backgrounds in performance. Specifically, more so Ethan. He actually went to Capilano University here in British Columbia for acting. So he's has a degree for acting and voice acting. And then myself, I have a lot of experience with acting, but I never went to school for it because I had kids and just
life
life happened, and that's okay because it's not always what you know, it's who you know. So
that's 100% true. 100%.
That's what I've learned anyway. I mean, I've worked in film and done a little bit of acting here and there, but this seems like a really interesting way to, like, podcasting specifically and transitioning into voice acting is a really interesting pathway I've seen a lot of people take. So,
well, and your show, I mean, you've got this great, I mean, it's all about the story,
right?
So it's a wonderful way to just mix the mediums, and I thought it was really great. Where did you get the idea for the show? What made you decide you wanted to do it?
Man, there's a lot of things that piled up over time. So unlike a lot of DMs or dungeon masters or game masters, as we call them, through the tabletop industry, I am not a forever DM. In fact, I've never really had the opportunity to DM a full game from start to finish before. And the idea of, a cast of characters trapped in a school grounds, or not necessarily trapped, but with their whole story coming along in a school grounds, I was never able to come to fruition ever since I started playing D&D. And even writing before that, I never really got a chance to write about a story like this. And this is something that's been percolating in my brain since I was a teenager. I don't even know when. But what really set the spark was actually listening to an actual play podcast of Monster of the Week and going, oh my God, this is the perfect pathway for this. For this to go ahead. I listened to the McElroy Brothers Adventure Zone, who are some amazing podcasters, and they did the Amnesty arc, which was amazing. And I really, really enjoyed it, and it was really inspiring. And so I actually took that and just was like, I'm going to write a story for this game. And that's kind of where the idea came up. And then I started workshopping it to some of my friends. And that's kind of how it all got started. I actually only had the school premise and like the monsters and some of the characters set up. I didn't know who the bad guy was. I didn't know who the evil was or where the monsters were coming from. I didn't know any of that until we started playing. Now I know what the end game is, but when we started, I had no idea.
It's a good idea. I've heard of the Adventure Zone. I've not listened to it yet, but I'm aware of quite a few different shows. That one's always been the one that I've heard among the online communities and stuff, a lot of the Facebook forums, especially with anything audio drama or any of these kind of, or almost not improv, but, almost these type of, D&D type of situations, but you're using it as an actual story to builder versus just a game. You always saw it kind of circling around.
It's a roller coaster, and it's amazing, and it's and I say roller coaster just I mean emotionally. There's at least a couple of times where I cried, just like it's so emotional, and that was one of the reasons why I was like, I want to do the same thing. I want to make emotional content, but entertaining content, and stuff that makes you laugh and cry and shake all at the same time. So
that's really cool. You talked a little bit earlier just about that you're not always the DM. How long have you been playing D&D? What's your background there?
Well, I started the first time I ever played D&D was with an ex-girlfriend's older brother. We all kind of shared a living arrangement, and he was like, "Oh, I play D&D. We should all do it together," because we had all moved to this new town, and I guess it's a bit of a long story, but he just kind of set up a game for us that didn't really have a long end game story decided, but that's where I got my teeth in. We played like 2 or 3 sessions, and I was like, I love this. I want more of this. And then I moved, and it was hard to kind of find anybody that was interested. And then it just kind of all fell in together where everybody that I worked with from that point on was like, oh, you're interested in D&D? I have a group. Or, I would change jobs because I, upgraded, was offered something better. And all my coworkers there were like, oh, you play D&D with those guys? Yeah, I play with that guy who's in that group. And he actually does DMing for us or whatever. And all of a sudden, it was just like every year I had someone that I could go and play with, which was amazing. So
you got lucky with that too, considering usually with D&D groups and stuff like that, they're usually pretty tight knit. They don't let people on the outside because either still ongoing stories or they don't want to teach someone, whether they're new or they're new to maybe their set of rules. I am kind of casually know about D&D as far as like some of the aspects of it. I grew up around it. A friend's brother, you used to have shelves of the books, shelves of the rule books, shelves of the source books. It was just never in the novels too, about the old D&D. So I never got around to playing it because he's kind of a jerk. So he was one of those gatekeeper kind of guys, Yeah,
we call those rules lawyers quite often, or rule lawyers. Those are the guys who like sit around the table and they go, "You can't do that."
I got about as much as a day's worth of him trying to develop me a character, and then the next day I came back and he's like, "Oh, I don't care anymore," and now he just walked away. I was like,
"Jeez."
And that was back in the day where it was a whole lot harder to build a character than it is now.
Yeah, no kidding.
It was really just like books everywhere.
We chatted about it a little bit before we went live. We were talking about just the wealth of information and resources available now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it's literally the touch of a button at this point. Yeah. Life is so much easier.
Touch of a screen.
A button, a glass table with a TV on it.
Everything. There's any way you want to look at your character screen, you go ahead.
See, and I'm being thrown under the bus real quick. And see, this is one of the things that you don't need in 2021 because it used to be that you had to have all of the books and
100%.
and all the dice. And now you can, with certain tools, you can actually you can roll digital dice, which I just don't think is fun. But how many dice collections do you have?
Dice collections. Well, this is interesting. I have several at different friends' houses where I usually play D&D. And since COVID, I think they've been lost to the annals and they've become part of their house collection, which is okay with me. I didn't spend a lot of money on them, but I do have one set that I keep at home that I always keep with me. And it's, I don't know, let's see if I can.
Yes.
There you go.
Stainless steel.
Yes.
See if I can get a couple of good ones here together.
Oh, nice.
Oh, those sound nice.
Yeah. Stainless steel, they roll really, really beautifully. And they always roll in my favor. I haven't had a lot of natural ones with them yet. So.
Well, I feel like that's one of the benefits of having the physical dice is when you have the cold die, you can put it aside for the night. You can't, close Chrome and then not have your session open with the digital.
Yeah, you can say I'm switching dice with physical dice, not in a dice roller. No, you got to be like I'm switching bots. I'm using a different command now. Yeah. In the Discord dice roller, we're using we have 3. No, it would be a waste to have so many dice bots.
So how you just brought up one of the key words. How do you record? Do you do it through Discord? Do you do it through a different service?
Yeah, we record everything through Discord. The nice thing about Monster of the Week is that because it's not a you don't have a board for the game. You go, where's the monster? Oh, it's 30 feet ahead of you. Okay, I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna shoot it with my whatever, or I'm gonna hit it with my sword, or I'm gonna sneak behind it, whatever. It doesn't matter because it's like that and it's all just story driven. There's no need for a board, so we just talk to each other on Discord, and we don't even do video. We just do voice. We don't see each other's faces. We don't need to because it's all of us are pretty expressive, as I'm sure you've heard from the story, and it's pretty easy to know kind of what we're thinking as that as that epic, amazing roll goes on, or the failure happens and everyone's, uh-oh, that's not going to be good. But
fun to life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you do all the you do the recording in Discord. And then you do the editing afterwards.
Yeah. So I actually, the way that I used to do it, and I mean, this is crazy. I used to record the music and our audio all as one big video file. And then I would chuck that into Reaper, which is an editing software for podcasters. And I would just try and chop it down. And then I started realizing how awful that was. So I stopped recording the music. I would still play music for the other cast members, so they would, get into character and stuff like that. But I would mute it for myself, so I wouldn't be able to hear it. And then I would add the music in post. And that was still done through OBS, though. That was still recorded through OBS.
Oh wow!
As a video file, because I didn't have Discord recording software. And then we finally, just honestly, probably like 2 or 3 episodes before you started listening, like before the most recent episode, we got a Craig bot. And the Craig bot is so useful for Discord calls because what it does is it takes each person speaking and creates a single track for that vocal recording. So you can just take that file from Craig. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. You rip it out of it creates a little zip file. You pop that into Audacity or whatever you want to Reaper, and it'll just show you. There you go. You've got Alex, you've got Ethan, you've got Makoto, you've got Cole, you've got April. Boom, all there.
Wow,
that's pretty crazy.
It makes it really easy. Easy, I should say. Easy to do some things, harder to edit altogether, just because now you've got 4 tracks instead of 1, which makes my life harder. I'm not an editor.
Starting to sound like you're building a song versus just one solid entity.
Yeah,
you got 4 or 5 different levels here. You got to kind of splice and time and cut, and that's.
It does make it useful when people have like the sniffles or a cough or something like that. Like if someone coughs in the middle of an important speech, like Elijah has a lot of these long monologues. Ethan's character, Elijah, has a lot of long monologues where he just goes on rants and tangents. And if someone like sniffs or coughs into the microphone when that happened before, nothing. There's nothing I could do about it. I could try and even it out, but you'd still hear it. Whereas now I can go in there and be like, I'm going to clip that little piece out and chuck it in the trash. And then there's no interruptions for that speech, which is great. But keeping everything in line and like making sure things are timed up properly, it makes it much more difficult.
I'm going to have to make a note of so what was that called again? That tool called?
Craig. It's a Craig bot. CRAIG. And a lot of tabletop RPG people who play through Discord, even ones who don't make a podcast but just record it for like posterity's sake.
Yeah,
we all make fun of Craig because as soon as you allow the bot to enter your chat, that's when he starts recording and he goes, boop, now recording, and he says it the same way every time, and it's always like, there he is. Here's Craig. Here's Craigie.
Damn you, Craig.
So you're doing everything in Discord and OBS. Have you thought about live streaming it ever?
Live streaming is tricky.
Right.
I would be interested if we had a way to record it so that I could edit it and still add it to the podcast later on. Because I don't want something that's only for the people who manage to catch it, and then especially if we have long-lasting effects, like a character gets permanently harmed or gains a permanent ability or something. I wouldn't want that to be lost to the viewers who listen a week later or something like that.
Right.
So yeah, I'd want it to be listened to pretty well, and I'd want to have a fairly good interest in it because the effort it would take to set up and the time that it would take to organize it and everything, I'd want to make sure that we have, at least I mean probably maybe 3 dozen people listening concurrently.
Right. Okay.
I mean, and I know that kind of, pulls back the curtain on the show a bit. We have about 50 to 60 people who listen to every episode within the first week they come out. And then after that, we get more and more listeners. Just depends on the trickle in.
But that first 50 that are the most important, though.
That's right. And those are the fans who, send me messages on Instagram or they create the fan art or they comment on the or they follow me on Discord or something like that, Instagram, stuff like that.
Yeah. So with all the post editing and the musical instruments that you play and introduce it, did you have those skills before you started?
The editing skills? Absolutely not. That was all like, basically I tried to pay an editor, like a friend of mine who like edits sometimes, for the first episode. And I mean, it's not their fault by any means, that the first episode doesn't sound very good. That was our fault for the recording and like the way that we did the first episode. Because honestly, I wasn't even 100% sure I wanted to do it as a podcast. I thought it was just going to be like, we'll record it and we'll listen back to it. We could show it to our friends and our family members and our kids and stuff like that. And then I was like, I showed it to a couple of people and they're like, dude, I want to listen to all of this regularly on my on my drive to work and while I'm on my break. And I was like, okay, well, I'll do that then. And yeah, the first editor that I had for it, he was like, this is going to be a lot of work. And I was like, oh no, that means if I end up doing it in the future, that's even more work for me, because you know how to do this stuff. And then I downloaded Reaper and I looked at the software and I played with it a bit and I watched a couple of tutorials and I was like, okay, I think I can do this. And then I just started doing it. And I got to say, I'm not a professional by any means. I would never like go on Fiverr and be like, I'll edit your podcast if you give me some money for it. No. I wouldn't. The only reason I edit a podcast is because I don't have money to fund other people to do it for me. That's the only reason.
After all the years of being on podcasts or me and being behind the scenes in this show now, I always my big thing I say is you fail upwards.
Yeah.
You're, especially if you're live, like us. Like, I mean, look at this, how we opened up. I mean, it happens, and that's the fun of what we do. Just like I'm sure you guys did live. I would, it'd be like you said, like an editing thing. But I mean, you could do a one-off type of story. You didn't have to necessarily do a concurrent. You could do one of those, like, as we jokingly call the filler episodes. But like a special.
It's funny that you say that. In the summertime, when all of the cast members actually lived in a nearby area, we all ended up getting together in the summer, having a barbecue, and we recorded a one-off episode live. Like, we didn't perform it live. Like, nobody could watch us. But it was the first time we were all in the same space instead of being over Discord. And I never ended up putting it out there on the air, but it was like a coronavirus themed episode where all the characters went to New York, and because New York and Connecticut are fairly close by. Yeah. And they ended up, I don't know why I'm saying that. I'm from Canada. So
I'm in New Hampshire, so I'm not too far.
All of us Canadians were like, let's do a podcast that's set somewhere else. I don't know, pick a state. And most of us lived in Vernon for a really long time. And Vernon, Connecticut is like a place that exists because we keep getting, like, all of our businesses keep getting calls like, is this the Vernon so-and-so? And we're like, that doesn't exist here. And then we look on a map and we type it into Google and we're like, oh, you mean the Vernon that's in the States and you're calling long distance right now? It's probably going to charge your cell phone company a whole bunch. Anyway, sorry. That's a tangent. And they go to the States and they like, there's this big virus that's going around and everybody's getting sick and dying. And it turns out there's this plague monster that was released and is creating this gas. And we made it so, like, everybody had to wear masks to be able to make it around, like, and go building to building. And like, there was a bunch of people who were like, you don't have to wear a mask. That's stupid. Oh man. Like, those don't really work, right? And yet you can see everyone outside that's not wearing a mask is like dead. And then at the end, you have to they had to use a ritual to banish the monster, so they all had to stand 6 feet apart and like create a star with their hands. And it was like the social distance circle was it was just hilarious. Like, we made it as a fun joke.
That fits pretty well too, because I was just listening to some show talking about New York City firemen. A lot of them refuse to wear take the vaccines. Yep. So it kind of fits timely with this whole like circle of conversation as far as the story.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, just saying, has anybody actually tried to make a social distance circle and make it go away? I mean, I haven't done that in the last 9 months.
That's true. Might be worth a shot. I don't see why not.
Maybe I'll give it a shot tomorrow.
I get children now.
Yeah, there is no socially distancing with children.
No.
As you can hear.
Yeah.
So you all are friends and you're all pretty close to each other, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've if we weren't before, so like, I mean, me and Ethan were really close, and I'd say me and Cole, and I also knew April a little bit, but I definitely say that it's definitely made us closer for sure.
Awesome.
And now that we've all gotten to know Makoto a little bit, he's actually got some other opportunities that opened up for me and Ethan because of our acting background and just go-to attitude when it comes to games and tabletop RPGs. He's actually given us some ability to do some really cool stuff. He actually, Makoto created his own game system. It's called World Persenia, and it's really interesting because it's a game system where you can play any kind of game. You don't have to play a fantasy game. You don't have to play, a Monster of the Week style game. You can play a Western, a sci-fi. It doesn't matter. Dystopian universe, anything. And it's really easy to play, and it's really simple to learn and make your characters. And you can be any kind of, most characters are like, you can be the fighter or you can be the cleric. In this game, you just like, I want to be a guy that gardens, and because he gardens, he also can like control giant plants like poison ivy. And it's like, okay, here you go. He's a character that does that. Which is
I enjoy the
really
interesting. It's good enough.
Yeah, right. And so he actually, because he created this game, he wanted to just find a way to market it because his background is in marketing. And so he actually runs games, like people can pay him to run a game for them. Like if everyone's like, you know what, we've got a group together, we're celebrating a bachelor party or whatever, they can pay him a bunch of money and he can get a game going for them and they can have a lot of fun, and it's great. But recently a company has contacted him and said, hey, we want to run an employee retreat for 60 employees next month. Can you facilitate a game for 60 employees? And he was like, if we can split it into groups, yes. So he hired me and Ethan and a couple of his other buddies, and we're all running games for employees of Bungie next month. Damn. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to that.
I as an avid Destiny 2 player, I that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, this is like I know, Destiny created Halo and Destiny, Bungie created Halo and Destiny, and I've never been an Xbox person. I've always been a Nintendo guy, but I know of them. So when I heard that, I was like, oh man, I feel really bad. Like everyone else is probably like big fans of them. I know who you are, and I enjoy your work. I just haven't really played much of it. But he said that's not a problem. So.
That's awesome. I completely forgot what I was going to ask after you brought up.
Was it one of Bree's questions? Maybe.
Well, so sure, go with that one because she's a lot smarter than I am. So, with the pandemic going on, has it been easier for you to find time to record? Or do you think there have been some other issues thrown in?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. We started recording in March. That's when, that's when we started.
When it started.
When it started, we started. Because, I mean, it basically was born from me. I was working at the time of starting to write everything. But I was at work, and it was so slow, and nobody was coming in, and I was like, just basically creating scenarios in my brain, listening to this other podcast, and I was like writing it, and then I got my friends involved, and finally I was sent home because everything was shut down, and I was like, okay, it's we're gonna do this game, and I'm gonna like send a message to a bunch of friends who might be interested, and eventually that's how we got our group together.
Very cool.
So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's been easier because that's all that's let us record since the pandemic started. I think it would be more challenging if there was no restrictions, because I feel like more people would be doing things most nights. Right now I can be like, hey, can you guys play on Saturday? And everyone's like, yep. Whereas if it was pre-pandemic, I'd be like, everyone okay to work on Saturday? And at least one of them would be like, I've got plans with a friend, or I'm going out, or we're going to a party, or we're going camping or something. But not now.
No. What would you say has been the biggest issue that you've had to face with starting the podcast and during that period since then?
I want to say, that the cast change was difficult, but it was pretty seamless. Honestly, the like writing a new character and introducing to the script and creating an arc around them was really seamless, and it actually flowed together way better than I expected it to. So that was not as problematic as I thought it would be. I wish I could say advertising as well, because I'd wish I could get this out to everyone's ears and everyone could have a chance to listen to Briarwood. But truth is, it's not for everybody, and will eventually gain the listeners through time. Just as long as it exists, people will listen to it eventually. So really, at the end of the day, I'd say, honestly, it's my own motivation and to edit and put out the episodes and just making sure we continue to make content. Like, just being motivated to edit is, honestly, that's about it for me. I'd say is the most challenging thing.
I can understand that.
Yeah, we're on a bit of a hiatus right now because our mixer he's been on vacation. He was doing some things. He was involved with League of Legends Worlds, the tournament that they had there for them. So he took some time off, and we're trying to get things recoordinated. But other than that, yeah, motivation for sure.
Okay. So you've got a mixer and you're doing the editing.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else helping you behind the scenes?
I mean, not really. We get. We get things done. We talk a little bit about, like, for example, if one of the guys is like, I want my character to go through this or experience this or have this kind of revelation, they would talk to me about it, and we plan sort of a way, like a good way for the characters to get there, without revealing any story plots to that actor, because none of the other hosts know where the story is going or where it's going to end or anything like that. They only know what their characters know, which I've done intentionally up to this point. But there are things like, for example, Elijah, his character is LGBT. He's gay. So I would occasionally send Ethan messages and being like, hey, how would you feel if I introduced this person to Elijah, or a character to Elijah in a romantic way, just so that he was comfortable with it. And then he would give me some feedback on, like, okay, well, if you want this character to have a romantic relationship with him, this is what Elijah would be avoiding or looking for. So that gives us a little bit of back and forth. Otherwise, I take care of all of the pre-writing, and then when we're in session, the characters take care of sort of driving the story. That's
really the collaborative effort behind that is just, that's amazing, and I think that's special. Listening to your show, it comes across as I'm sure that you intended it. It comes across as reading a book, that somebody is reading a book to you. And I love that there's so many different minds at work. I mean, it's all your baby as far as the base of the story, but with everybody putting their 2 cents in, that's just great. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that I've not expected, and now I've had to create entire sections of story thanks to, and I say thanks to as if in spite of, but more like, hey, thanks to this person's quick thinking or crazy intuition or something, now I can expand on this, or I can take this part of the universe. Like, honestly, the one of the biggest core aspects of this world is that it's Earth that we live on is not governed by one god, but 4. And those 4 gods work in balance to maintain harmony and balance on planet Earth. You have the god of good, the god of evil, the god of chaos, and the god of law. And the whole concept of that story came about because one of the players wanted to be a priest. If he had not been a priest, I would not have included religious undertones into the show whatsoever. I don't know how I would have gone, but now, thank goodness, I actually have this sort of pantheon that I can pull from, that are, the characters meet them, and they're all very interesting characters because they are responsible for everything that is Earth. So like, oh, who is responsible for the creation of marijuana? Well, that's the god of good. Who is responsible for the creation of alcohol? Well, that's a combination of the god of chaos and the god of good. They were working together. It's a collaboration, right? Like, that's kind of where things, when you meet the gods, they're really extreme characters because that's what they are. And it's a lot of fun. I don't know how I got on that tangent. That was about the collaboration and how I wouldn't have where we are without the characters and the actors.
Well, yeah,
adding things to the story.
The world building behind that is,
yeah.
I mean, I grew up reading the Dragonlance novels by Tracy Hickman and Margaret Weiss, and I mean, most of those, at least the bigger stories, were all built off of D&D play sessions. So I think it's great when somebody else's just random thought makes you think of something amazing, like the God of Chaos. And
actually, I've got some art that I'd like to share. Then, and some of that art actually has there's some of those characters we've been talking about in the show. If you guys don't mind.
Oh no, go for it.
Absolutely.
Okay. So let me just do this here and share that.
All right.
So this is the first piece of artwork that I had commissioned for the show. I don't know if you can see my mouse pointer over there. You can. Okay.
I can.
So Briarwood Academy, obviously, this I had commissioned to sort of market the show and just post this on Twitter, Instagram, show people, and just talk about like this is what we are. And the characters are as follows. So this is, pardon me, this is August, April's character. This is Brock. Dylan's character, he is no longer part of the show, unfortunately. This is Elijah, Ethan's character, and this is Gunnora, Cole's character. And they all play, sort of stereotypical characters from the Monster of the Week style show. August is the crooked. Brock is the divine. Elijah is the mundane, and Gunnora is the spooky. He's kind of, possessed by, well, not possessed, but anyway, that's kind of where they all come from. And then this is one of the first monsters they actually end up fighting. It's a ventriloquist dummy that's possessed by a spirit. And that ventriloquist dummy is still around, but in a different form. And it's really interesting. If you listen to the show, you'll get that. This here is a newer piece of art that I had done recently. This is by, sorry, let's go just a little bit, plug the artist for this. I don't just want to, there's no credit for this. This is by Fantasy's Heart Artwork on Facebook and on Twitter. She's fantastic. This is by Mahona's Art on Twitter and Instagram. She's very, very good as well. We've got the new character Dennis over here on the left. This is played by Makoto. And then we have Gunnora again, August, and Elijah. This is a scene from an episode where we're fighting a monster. This is done by Day Darian on Twitter. She's a very talented artist who does a lot of NSFW stuff. I didn't want NSFW for this, but if you enjoy some of the work, you can commission all these artists anytime, I'm sure, as long as they have commissions open. We've got the characters again, and they're fighting a flame monster that shows up later on. And here's the gods. This is one that I really, really wanted to show you guys. Oh, gosh, there we go. So this is the god of good. His name is Gord. He's like a chill surfer dude. Like, man, whatever. This is a lot of fun, and just do what makes you feel right. And this is Umbra, the god of chaos, who just loves having a lot of fun. And oh my goodness, everything is so chaotic, and it's just incredible how much fun we can have when things are just crazy. Yeah. So that's the kind of the two characters there. They have a lot of fun. Anyway, I'll end that, but that's the artwork that I have for the show.
Nice.
That's really cool. What's it like? How much input did you give the artist when you commissioned those pieces?
Okay, so the art ranges anywhere from $120 to, let me just take a look through this and remember. $120, $120, all the way to the big poster that I had done, which was $380.
Oh, well,
$380 Canadian, which was, it was much more reasonable in American prices, but still.
Well, how much descriptive how much of the drawings were left up to the artist's interpretation of the characters?
So that the way that I do commissions is I always get the artist. Pardon me. I don't like to just tell you, hey, can you draw this scene with this and these characters and do this? Because the problem comes to that you're paying for someone's art and there's no passion. So what I do instead is I talk to an artist and I say, hey, I really like your art. I'd be interested in commissioning you for a project that I'm working on. Would you be interested in working with me on this? They usually go, oh, that's a weird way to ask for commission, but yeah, I'd be interested. And then I go, please have a listen to the show. Listen to whenever a point, but I only want to commission you is if there's a moment in the show that inspires you to go, I want to draw that. Or a character that goes, I want to draw that character. And if you get to that point, tell me what you want and how much it's going to cost, and I will pay you for it. But I want your project, the part that I am paying you to do, to be a passionate project of art. I don't want to see just art that I've shelled out money for it, and you're sitting at your desk going, God, I wish I didn't have to do this right now. Because, yeah, art needs to be inspired. Our art is always inspired. When it comes to Briarwood Academy, I only write when I'm inspired to write. We only play the game when we're inspired to play. Because it wouldn't make sense just to try and phone it in. And I don't want phoned in artwork.
No, you can't really do that when it comes to a story-driven narrative versus just like a conversation, where, whatever you're doing. Because, I have friends doing podcasts, been doing it for years and years, and you can definitely tell when they're not having a day where they want to be doing it, but they have to fill in something. So they're just squeezing every ounce of, that out of them. It's just like, I couldn't imagine someone doing that with a story. That'd be awful.
Yeah.
Performance-wise.
Yeah, no, that's a really good, great way of going around the artwork too. What was it like the first time you saw something that was inspired by something that you'd written?
Ah, man, there's no words you can use to describe the feeling of like I created that and now I can see it. Yeah. There's just nothing. You can picture it in your mind all you want. You can think like, is this what the characters would look like when I'm telling the story? This is what I'm seeing. But I mean, and there's a really good way that it was put was in that most recent piece of art that I showed you that had Dennis, the character played by Makoto. He's a forever DM, like I was talking about before. He's always a dungeon master. He never plays a character, so he never really gets art drawn of his characters because the characters he plays are NPCs and they're not as important. And when he saw that artwork, he was just like, his jaw dropped, and he was just like, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And the moment you can tell a story, have someone listen to it and go, oh, okay, yeah, nope, that's what I hear. And then they draw it and you see it. It's like, it's ethereal. The experience is nothing like anything else.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine. I tried writing when I was younger, and it's just something that I don't think that I ever really developed my own voice. So I read a lot, and I always I can picture the characters in my head, and then when I see them, a different artist take their look at it, it's one of those moments. That's as close as I can get of,
yeah,
no, that's not what that person looks like, or that's 100% who they look like.
Right. And that's exactly what I was getting at there. Yeah, for sure. It's like when you read a book and you see art of the book and you're like, oh shit, yeah, that's what I've been thinking of. So
yeah, that's too cool. Well, back to the I guess the technical side of your podcast. And you do marketing through social media. What kinds of social medias have you decided really work well for you?
I mean, here's the thing. Discord has been the way to go. I've gotten more listeners. I mean, the Twitter has been useful. There have been, like, I'll be honest, there's been a lot of listeners who are maybe watching this right now or have listened to the show and really enjoy it, that have come from Twitter. And hey, listeners from Twitter, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. But when I talk to people on Discord, and like I get in groups of people who are creating and doing their own art or doing their own writing and whatever, and we like share our work, that's where there's no cost to it. Just talking about the show, being part of the community, and being like, hey, that's the guy that's always helping me with figuring out, the past tense and post tense of the writing that I'm doing. Or, oh, that's the guy who's always telling me that my art looks amazing, and he's asking me to check out his podcast. Absolutely, I'll check it out. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I'm going to tell my friends about it. I'm going to share it with my other art community and my other art community and this other Discord that I'm part of. And all of a sudden you've got these webs of people who are like, oh my gosh, yeah, the show's great. So I think that you can pay to have your show advertised, and you can buy listeners, or you can earn listeners. And I think that earning listeners is so much more rewarding, because when you earn them, they don't care how long you take a hiatus. They'll come back to your episode when it goes uploaded to their feed. When you buy a listener, they're like, oh, this is cool. This is great. I don't mind it. Oh, he hasn't uploaded for a couple of months. Whatever. I'll listen to something else. I'm not going to come back. So I've spent $15 on a Facebook advertisement. It got me 2 follows on Spotify, and I think 200 listens to the first episode on like Spotify or wherever they happen to click to, but nobody congruently following after that. It's just like people listening and being like, oh, okay, yeah, that's what it's about. Not really for me. Whereas if you know me and you know the storytelling that I do, and you know that I'm passionate about it, then people will be like, yes, no, I'll listen to it. Or if you hear your friends say, hey, I've listened to the first 20 episodes of the show and it's amazing, or I've it's really hit me hard or whatever, that's a whole different thing than being like, I listened to an ad, or I saw it on my Facebook feed, or I saw it on my Instagram feed, and I clicked the link. Because there's no loyalty at that point. And I don't expect you to have loyalty. If you see the link and you click it and you don't like it, or you don't know what it's going to become, why would I expect you to stick around to find out?
Yeah, I say you got incredibly lucky, fortunate, I should say, and lucky maybe a little bit. You found that your people so fast in the community of what you're doing, especially if you're considered a niche or anything that's not going to necessarily maybe follow in the mainstream of even podcasting or the audio drama aspect of podcasting, because that old timey radio method is coming back in a hard way, and you're in that vein, but you're in that, you're in a different niche of that situation. You're like the subgenre of that area, but it's all in the same kind of bubble. So yeah, as far as finding yourself on the Discord, that definitely, you definitely hit yourself, I think, really well with that, because everybody finds their way in some form, no matter where it is, whether it be Twitter or whether it's Facebook. Honestly, for us, I think Twitter has done for us way more. Like Facebook, I engage with tons of shows all the time for guests and whatever else, even before in Facebook groups, and it's a wide hit or miss. I mean, unless you hit the right people, it's share, you like and review my stuff, and I'll review your stuff. I'm like, that's not doing anything.
Yep.
Great. I've got a review. That's good. I mean, it looks good on iTunes, but so what?
Yeah, and that's another thing. People. The Facebook, like, don't get me wrong. The Facebook, they've got that like for like. Hey, I'll like your like, or I'll review for review. Is I get it, but like, what? Yeah, what is that? That doesn't earn you a listener. They've listened to 10 minutes or 5 minutes of one episode, and they go, "This is amazing. Everyone check this out," or whatever. What is that? How does that help? I mean, I don't know. If they actually went and like told 5 friends, or went to a coffee shop and was like, "Hey, everyone here, check out the first 2 episodes of the show."
Honestly, most people that I've dealt with on there literally just go on iTunes or the podcast app, and they'll just make a dummy review. Yeah. Just kind of BS it on the way, hit 5 stars, hit done, and shouldn't do a screen cap and show you. Like, who care? That's not doing me any good. Thanks, I guess.
The algorithm works for 5 stars, but listeners don't work with the algorithm the same way.
Right.
I find.
So do you have your own Discord channel, Discord community?
Yeah. I mean, I don't have one for Briarwood yet.
Okay.
I should create one where people can come in and ask questions and meet us and talk to us. And I really think that's a great idea. I think I'm going to start working on that pretty soon. But we actually record our episodes on my friend's Discord channel because he has all the bots that we need. And I didn't want to get all the bots, and like I didn't want to have to figure out how to program them and invite them into the channel, and blah, 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 all that stuff. So
you just jumped in squad.
I just asked. I was like, "Hey, can we record or can we record D&D sessions in your channel?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." And you can invite whoever you want. He gave me the admin privileges. He's like, "Just make sure, that they're respectful and they don't break any of the rules." And I was like, "Okay." So we went in there, and then, that's kind of how that happened. But it would be nice to have my own channel and community where people could be like.
Yeah, I could see you doing almost like an open world fictional type of thing, like almost like your fans coming in and just making their own little thing in your world, just kind of messing around and being like, it's almost like you're breeding this whole new thing going on, just letting people do it. Because I mean, that's kind of how you with your idea how your show started, like listening to other things or watching other things and kind of.
I would be over the moon if listeners started doing that and getting involved and like creating alternate universes and their own versions and headcanons. I would be stoked for that.
Somewhere else in the country or, that whole thing. That sometimes the best way to start writing, I learned when I did it was like, okay, what is the show I want? Okay, let's just say, for instance, Lost, because I was a big fan of Lost. Like me and three of my friends did fan fiction. It turned into a damn script. It was that ridiculous. But now I have that script and I want to turn it back into a normal text so I can actually turn it into something else because we want to take from that idea of it being a sequel and turn it into its own story away from Lost, not connected anymore. But I know a lot of people that write and that's what they do. They'll start out in like a different part of like, I don't know, whatever show it may be that you liked, and then go, oh, well, this takes place somewhere else in that world, in that universe. Oh, yeah. And then it's its own thing, and you can either develop off of that as staying in that world, or you could just completely change it at the end and make it its own thing. And
it would be really interesting to, like, even, especially, like, community inclusion is so important that, like, taking characters that they've created and pumping them into the story at some point or something like that would be really interesting. And I think it would really drive engagement more. And more people would want to join. Yeah. Like fan art. Hey, throw in an art piece that you did 5 years ago and like somehow fit that character into our world of an OC that you have, like an original creation. And, whoever has the best piece of OC will have you as a guest on the show, or we'll give you a free 6 months of the Patreon or whatever. I don't know.
Do like a walk-on for an episode or something.
Yeah.
Quick.
Or like I could script out some lines and be like, read these and send the recording to me, and I'll pump that recording into the episode. That way you don't have to be free or with us or whatever.
Well, when you have this Discord channel, I just want an invite.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'll send you an invite. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Sweet. We're coming up on an hour here-ish. I mean, where can people find you online to engage and interact?
Oh, I would love it if you could just follow me on Twitter at Briarwood D. There it is, right there, right underneath. And if you could follow us on Facebook, it has the Briarwood Academy podcast. Gets tagged in a lot of like Briarwood Academy sports events for an actual school called Briarwood Academy. I'm always like, we're not going to be there, but I mean, you can go there and listen to us. That's fine. That's right.
Yeah.
There's also, we also have an Instagram. It's just the Briarwood Academy on Instagram. And I guess there is a r/Briarwood Academy Reddit page. It's pretty empty. I've got some of the art up there. If you guys want to go in and post your theories or what episode you're on or how much you enjoy the show, please do. I'd love to see more fan engagement on the Reddit page. And as soon as I have that Discord up and running, you guys will get a link. And if you can put it on your website, then listeners who've checked it out here can check it out.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I can do that.
Absolutely.
I can absolutely do that. Or more important,
also,
my very talented wife can do that.
I see.
I sat back.
Anybody who enjoyed the segment where we were talking about the World Presenia, that game that can be any kind of game, check out the World Presenia at Twitter. If you want to hire Makoto or just check out his game, it's free. You can download it yourself. There's a PDF. It's like 18 pages. It's super easy compared to like something like Dungeons and Dragons, which is thousands of pages. Check it out. It's an easy game to learn and play. It's lots of fun.
That's and just to verify that I 100% found exactly what you were talking about. I was Googling Briarwood Academy earlier today to try to find your website or your shows online, and apparently there's a Briarwood Academy across town from where I live.
Oh, there you go.
Which is a thing. And I found all the different sports. I was like, I don't think this is right, Google.
Put it in the incognito mode so that it doesn't know where you're typing from, so it doesn't give you local area section stuff.
Oh, I never thought of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's a great way to I want to look for a Walmart, but not the Walmart in my city. I want to look for the Walmart in Ontario.
All
or
right.
wherever.
Well, sweet.
The more you know.
The more
Sure.
I learned something tonight. Thank you.
Hey, no problem.
Mr. Ball, is there a place that our listeners can find you on the interwebs?
Sure. I typically am on Twitter and Instagram the most. I'm on The Irish on Fire on Twitter and on Instagram, and I'm also on Content Control on Twitter and Instagram as well, which is my little sporadic live show that I do. Whether it be music, whether it be whatever it is at this time. At this point, it's not really that much, but it's slowly building into something this year when I can figure out the time frame. That'll be some fun stuff. A lot of music guests and a bunch of other nerdism type of stuff.
Awesome. Yeah. If anybody wants to find me, my name is Robert. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Discord, at Rebinjam. Shoot me a message. Usually floating around on Twitch somewhere too. But thank you all so much for spending your time with us tonight. We just want to take time to thank Alex. It's been a great time having you here and talking about your show.
It's been great being here. Thank you.
Yeah. Please go check out the Briarwood Academy wherever you find your podcasts. Again, we are your Let's Chat Live hosts, Robert and Seaball. You can find out more about our show at www.letschatpodcast.net and follow us on Twitter at Let's Chat Live. So have a great night, and we'll see you next time.